this course on the Custom Cabinet Planner. In this course, we will continue looking at the various sections of the Procedures page, starting with the Material Acquisition Procedures section. Keep in mind that this entire solution is purpose-built for custom cabinet manufacturers. Let's begin. So in this first section of material acquisition, again we have one of our helpful tips, and then if we come down into the section itself, if I were to close that, we see that there are 6 subsections currently, and of course you could add as many as you need to. Right now we have a Cabinetry KCD, Cabinetry Online, Connex, Premier Eurocase, Doorworks, Glass Supplier. So this Cabinetry KCD is if the user is ordering parts from Cabinetry using KCD. This section is for users that probably don't have KCD, that are using their drawings from Cabinet Vision or Mosaic or any of the other design softwares to enter their cabinets one by one on the online solution. And then Connex is Conestoga's door program, and any of the Cabinetry libraries will export to Connex. And then Premier Eurocase is an option for some of the modern style doors, acrylics and textured melamines and such. Doorworks does a lot of the same things that Premier Eurocase does, but they're an East Coast company as opposed to being in Colorado, so shipping is cheaper if you happen to be on this eastern side of the Mississippi. And then any glass supplier, not really specific to anyone. We have a calculator in there to calculate the size of glass. So let's jump into this Cabinetry KCD, and this is a step-by-step process of how to order carcass parts and drawer boxes from Cabinetry using the Cabinetry Full Access Library for KCD. So when we come into the setup, not much here, so we can kind of skip past that. When we get to the processes, again, we don't want to cover every bullet point or every checkbox or every numbered list, but you'll notice that most of these items, now these two here just say standard and lamello because those are the only options, but most of the items I have what I would typically choose as a true 32 manufacturer. This is what I would typically choose in that position. Typically doesn't mean that's what you need to do, it just means that's what I would typically choose or what a true 32 guy would typically choose. This position here is specific to true 32. We do want that 3 3/4 or 94.5 inch position. So a lot of just kind of guidance here with these notes where I'm telling you typically what I would do or making a note after it to kind of explain or expand on the thing you're seeing in KCD that may not be perfectly clear to you, especially the first time you do it. And again, we have our peek into the selections, so the answers that we're going to enter into these things are here. And if we jump down into this maintenance section, we'll see for the first time this order status. We haven't had that previously because we didn't need it, but we see here that the exterior material order status is not ordered, the interior material order status is not ordered, and the drawer box order is not ordered. So let's go ahead and set these because this process would have had us actually do this, and so one of two things probably happened. We either carted the order ready to be ordered or we ordered it. So let's just go ahead and say we carted it, and the reason we might do that, say that we got our exterior material parts from Cabinetry and our interior cabinet parts from Cabinetry, and let's just go ahead and say we got our edge band there and we carted all of these things, got our drawer boxes. The reason we typically would do it that way is that the lead time at Cabinetry is shorter than the lead time at our door suppliers, and so if that's the case, if the doors are going to take quite a bit longer to get, we might postpone the actual ordering of it a week or 2 or 3 or 4, and so we would just say we've carted it, so we have that visual saying that this still needs to be done. That's in our color coding. When you look at these, you see that the not ordered is red, and then we have the yellow for carted or ordered, and then received is green. So we have the color coding kind of getting our attention when we're looking at some of our dashboards that we talked about earlier. Then the room status here, for all of these, we typically would just kind of ignore this, make sure it's still right, but I'm still in material acquisition if I've ordered my cabinet parts or I've ordered the wood for the cabinets, but I haven't ordered the functional hardware, surface hardware, whatever. So I would stay in each of these categories. I would leave this room status in material acquisition until I get to the last item and everything's been ordered, and then we would change this room status. So now let's just peek into this Cabinetry Online because it's mostly redundant to what's up here other than it is a different system. So we do have a portal into the drawings here because we're going to need the drawings to order using online system. We're going to have something to base our order off of. And so we go cabinet by cabinet by cabinet on the drawings and enter those in. And again, I've given you kind of the instructions on about how to do that. First step of getting ready to place your order, and then when you come in, giving you some direction on what I would do as a True 32 62 manufacturer, what typically would be chosen in each of these, and you see there's a lot more options here. You'll also find that in the online order system you can do a lot more. This is something we developed after the KCD solution. Hopefully we'll bring the KCD solution up to that at some point in the future, but this is a newer solution, so a lot of things that can't be done in KCD can be done here, as far as leaving backs off and having nailers and things like that. And as we scroll down here, we see that we actually have sections specific to base cabinets, tall oven cabinets, and upper cabinets. Now there's actually even variations on these base, tall, and upper cabinets, but I wanted to give you one kind of monkey see, monkey do. This is the answers that I would enter into these fields. The others will probably be self-evident. Some of the cabinets have things that are specific to them and their design, their engineering, that wouldn't be represented in this typical base cabinet, this typical tall oven cabinet, and this typical upper cabinet. But I didn't want to create a section for every single box because I don't think that's necessary. And then down here we're back to our order status, and our order status for this particular item. And our order status was set when we were looking at it in the other methodology. You would only use one of these two typically, most of the time, but you would ignore it if you did kind of mix it. Every now and then we have a closet job that we'll draw the closet in KCD, and then we'll only order the cabinets that are specifically for a closet that we just can't do in KCD using the online order, and all the other cabinets come through KCD. So this would just be ignored in that case. We would have answered it in the KCD portion and ignore it when we do the online portion. All right, let's jump down into Connex. And here, this one gets really, really specific, and I'm not going to dive deep into the details here because the objective here is to show you that we have these step-by-step instructions, not to review them or talk about how I would do that. So this is kind of the order info, edit rooms. We've got some helpful images here and there to kind of show you what we would put into these different screens that we're working with. So you might find that helpful, or somebody doing it for the first time might find it helpful, or somebody that doesn't do it often that just needs a refresher. But you can see we really get into some deep details here because this is a very difficult process if you've never done it before. A couple of the things that are something worthy of us talking about is because we have our appliances here, we also have our appliance panels here. And so looks like we only have one appliance panel, but we have the dimensions for that appliance panel on both the width in imperial and metric, and the height imperial and metric. So you would have that information right when you need it, where you need it, context sensitive information. We got to order some appliance panels. I'm in Connex, I'm placing that order. That is one of the things that will not come in from KCD, so you got to add them manually, but you'd actually have the sizes right here to do that. And then we have another portal into the room selections, lots of colored notes kind of reminding us of things, some things to be able to reference later. We might enter the size of our top rail, bottom rail of these wainscot panels, applied ends, things like that, so that we have something to reference back to as we move through the different ones, not having to keep opening up the details about those things. And this stuff is kind of redundant to the drawer fronts are almost identical to the doors. This kind of stuff is really nice that we have Notion that we can do this in. So Connex is an incredible program built on a rules-based system, but when you get to this specialty portion and you're wanting to order plywood applied ends with an edge band, they have no rules in there saying you can't order all the species available. These are the only species that those applied ends can be ordered in, and so you have to obey those rules, but it's not built into their rule system. So it's really neat that we can just cut and paste this little thing out of Conestoga's catalog and say, here's the species that will work for the Savoy and the Verona doors. Then the applied ends portion of it, this is again just a shortcoming of kind of the connection between Connex and KCD, that the applied ends that we add into KCD are going to come into the door section of Connex, and we need them to be in the specialty section of Connex, and so we actually have to move them. And cutting and pasting in Connex is really dangerous, so what we choose to do is when you actually have one of these panels added into Connex, you can come over here and check this block and say, yes, I did add that panel into Connex, into the specialty section. Once you've got them all added, then you can go back and start deleting them out of the door section, and as you delete them, you check these boxes. And so that's just that double check, self check, making sure that I got them all added and I deleted them all, because if you missed one, that's an expensive proposition, and if you forgot to delete one or two or three, that's an expensive proposition. And if we scroll down here a little further, these are all just parts and pieces of the process that we would go through. But we get down here to this drop ship optional if needed. So when we pop in here, we see that it's an edge band. So these three are here to tell us what this might be, possibly. They might help us know what this is if we haven't already predetermined that. In this case, we already know this is going to be designer white. And we may order this from Cabinetry with the cabinet parts. We may need to order this from Connex and have it drop shipped Cabinetry. And so we have this peek into the portal to tell us what to order, and then when we come down here we can say we ordered it and that we drop shipped it, and we check this off and say that we did that. And then in the maintenance section we could come in here and say, okay, I have now placed my door order. Doors are ordered. The edge band has been carded. Now if we had done that as a separate order, here we would go ahead and say that it had been ordered or drop shipped. We've ordered our crown mold. We've ordered our light rail. That would be part of this order process. And currently this stain and paint order field is set to not applicable because we're going to order these pre-finished, or they may be textured melamine, or they may be acrylic. But if we needed to order paint, then that color would be here. If we needed to order glaze, then that color would be here. And then again, we probably at this point, maybe other than the glass, might be done ordering. If there's no glass in the job, then we probably, because we're going to order the doors from one of these three companies, we would just go ahead and set this at that point to whatever it's saying up here, this appropriate machine price. So what are you going to do next? Well, some people might go all the way to say the assembly's next. Some people might say I've still got to machine something, or I've got to finish something. We'll just choose machine just for the sake of this tutorial, but you may choose something different from that. These sections are really almost identical to this with just a few exceptions. So I'm going to pop in and just talk about a couple little things that we've done here. So Premier Eurocase and DoorWorks both, Premier Eurocase being in Colorado, DoorWorks being in Knoxville, Tennessee, or just outside Knoxville, Tennessee, both are using a program called Almoxy. And so in the setup portion of both of these, we have some order information, and then we have some information about exporting the doors from KCD and then importing them into Almoxy. Almost impossible to remember that process, but we've just literally come in here and told you kind of how to cheat KCD. This section that we're going to take you to is not meant to do what we're doing, but it works. And get those doors out of there. You know, you have to do this exactly right. Follow these instructions, get them exported. And then we would jump into DoorWorks or into Premier Eurocase's Almoxy, and we would start this process of importing the doors, and you have to follow that exactly too. The process for both is identical as far as this piece of it goes. The maintenance piece of it is also identical. And again, if you were ordering the doors from here, you would want to change your room status here. We've already done that from the Connex section. And then you would set your order status. Well, we've already done that from the Connex portion of it. Then we have this last little section here is glass supplier. Not much here as far as just kind of real quick information there for setup. What do we do to get ready to order glass? And then again, just a calculator is all this is. It's just going to calculate for us. We're saying that we've got a cabinet number, let's say 10, and we've got two doors, and the door width is 458 by 1021. The subtract amount for this particular door is 99 millimeters, so we need to order glass that is 359 by 922. You could even export this and print it out, give it to your glass guy, and then the maintenance thing, we would come in here and kind of double check whatever we need to double check here, make sure we've done it. And this actually is telling us how to do that, how to export to the PDF, include the database, you know, step by step or bullet pointed instructions on how to go about doing that. Now let's jump down into this receiving inventory procedures, and you see there's a lot of subsections, and we're not going to touch on but just a couple things here. So you'll start seeing these notes everywhere. Never place solid wood or engineered core parts on the concrete floor. The wood absorbs moisture in the concrete. So you may not subscribe to that, but just know that you can put those kind of notes and just have them repeat over and over and over again. Every time you open one of these sections up, you're going to see, if we go into the machine section, we're going to have that same note at the top of that. And some of these assembly pieces, we would have that same note. So know that you can do that. And this receiving inventory part, it's all about receiving the inventory from a vendor of some sort. And so this is not really high-tech stuff. This is just materials and supplies, and then we would have one specific to cabinet components. We want to make sure that the parts that come from Cabinetry have the right edge band on them, they're machined properly, and all that. And all this is just telling you, make sure you do this, 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 and this over and over again. It's just each one of these. Now, this is showing various methodologies of checking things in depending on what you're getting. So in the case of doors, With hinge holes bored, we're going to do one thing. Where doors they're not bored, that we're going to have to bore them. We're going to do something different as far as what carts we put them on or where we take them or that kind of thing. Same thing with the drawer fronts. And then we have something talking about checking in the applied ends, trim and molding, and countertops, that kind of thing. So this is, again, short and sweet because there's not much to it, and you're typically not going to do a change of status here for this, but we do have a peek into it to see where it's at, just to know for sure where it's at. And we also have a peek into the room selections if we need to reference something while we're checking something in. Do we get the right door? Is it made from the right material? That kind of thing. And we also have peeks into the drawings to be able to reference the cabinets themselves and see that we got the parts we needed for those cabinets. That covers everything I wanted to touch on this 5th course on the procedures page. Up next, we will continue working down our sequence of events list, looking at more sections of the procedures page. Thanks for watching.